Bob Odenkirk at the awards. It's a strange vibe, those awards.
It's never a good...
Let's mispronounce the names of winners and take shots at some of the league's best players. Odd vibe.
It's never a good comedic routine when someone is saying, that's not nice. Automatically. It's just awkward. The whole thing's awkward. And I love Bob Odenkirk.
Sal Capaccio joining us in the Worcester Hotline. 2 bits of news on the Bills that have one that has just come down, one that I learned was news. The Bills, according to Adam Schefter, are adding another coach to their coaching staff. It'll be Illinois co-defensive coordinator and defensive line coach Terrence Jamison has been added as the Bills' defensive line coach. Adam Schefter tweeting that out moments ago. And then I also see that from the awards last night that James Cook did win an award. He won the Jim Brown Award. Much like in hockey, right, like the points title and
the Rocket Richard.
Yeah, like the Vezina to the best goals against for 2 games.
That's the William Jennings.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Jennings. The ones that are just statistical, when you win the rushing title, you win the Jim Brown Award. So James Cook won the Jim Brown Award, and they put that kind of up on the screen last night. So congratulations to James Cook. Not a surprise. We knew we won the rushing title, but he got an award for it. Sal, good morning. Thanks for coming on today. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah. The award for achievement, and getting a certain level of something, like what it is. So yeah, you get an award. It's more of an achievement award. You did something versus a voting award, right? You know what I mean? Like you don't vote on the Jim Brown Award. We don't vote on, the Rocket Richard Award, as you're saying, right? The points and all that. So that's a little different. You get that, that. The voting is interesting because you guys saw the votes, and I know that Joe's been talking about it this morning and the updates. So, Josh finishes 3rd, and then McCaffrey and Trevor Lawrence, and then Justin Herbert got a first-place vote. Have you guys talked about this morning?
Yeah, Sam Monson said he did it and laid out his case for Herbert as MVP.
What did you think?
I think it's totally fine.
Me too.
I think,
you know what I think is more egregious? People thinking their definition of value should be everybody's definition of value. Like to me, that's worse than you, like someone voting for somebody that none of us really thought should win it.
Yeah. If you go back, Sal, all right, let's deep dive here. The history of the MVP. It used to be you could only vote for one person. And I think what has happened as a natural side effect of the industry that we work in and the giant NFL machine is that we talk about MVP for months and months and months and months, and then everyone feels like they're supposed to pick, well, it's got to be Mayor Stafford. Everyone's kind of decided it's one of those two. And if you go back to the 90s, this round-the-clock conversation about and the horse race about the MVP didn't exist, and you would get 17 players that get a vote.
Yep.
So I think that the diversification of votes is good. I want difference of thought in the process, and I applaud Sam Monson for voting for Justin Herbert.
And, yeah. It's the same thing. Listen, I was stunned last week, too, at the Bill Belichick thing, right? But, the more you think about it and the more you dive into it, you have to allow for people to have different thoughts and reasons. And, I think that the group think part is worse for me. When we should all not be thinking the same. And the worst part is when people think, well, I think this way, so everybody should think this way, right? Like the more that whole Belichick thing went on, I took some calls from people, and I know we're in Buffalo, right? And I know that it's, sour grapes and people are bitter and all that. But, I took some calls last week. Hey, look, the guy cheated and I don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting him in first ballot, people are saying. And I got it. I totally understood it. And this is the same thing here. I applaud Sam Monson for being transparent, for completely laying out his explanation. And as much as I would not vote for Justin Herbert. I don't think he deserved the vote. But I absolutely have no problem with this type of thought process from Sam Monson.
Yeah, some people want to I'm just going to vote for the guy I thought that had the best season and not explain it to anybody, and no one will ask me why I came to this, but why did I come to this? Because I watched the television shows tell me that this guy probably should have won it. Like top 20, top 25 NFL coaching votes, Heisman votes, things like this. Like some people are going to go deeper into it and take it very seriously, and others are just going to try not to get clapped back at because I don't want anyone to ask me about, so I'll just put down Stafford or I'll just put down May. It's the year that Lamar won it, and he wasn't MVP unanimously by one vote. And the media came for Aaron Schatz because they were so mad at him, called him a Bills homer. because he voted for Josh Allen.
Right.
Like he was the one person, and it was just like, oh wow, this guy's clearly a problem. I don't get it. I don't understand.
And then last year with Josh and Lamar, the same thing happened this year with Drake May was the All-Pro, right? I think Drake May was first-team All-Pro.
Yep.
And Stafford wins MVP. It's the same thing happened last year. Well, maybe last year actually showed people, instead of looking at it where I'm looking at it this morning, and people are like, oh my God, this last year just everybody now is so screwed up with this thing because last year ruined it. Well, maybe last year opened people's eyes. That's the way I look at it.
Yep.
Maybe last year was like, well, it doesn't have to be the best player. If you want the best player, rename the award to the most outstanding player.
Sure.
Right. Stafford
Right?
was.
That's not what the award is. The award is the most valuable player, and value has a subjective definition to everybody.
Yeah, Stafford was first team All Pro this year, but I think your point is still absolutely holds up.
Oh, that's what it was. You know what it was, Stafford?
May,
because he won by so much. It was such a margin.
Right.
And then there was a lot of people who voted for May
That's right.
to decrease the margin for MVP, and that was what the debate
Yeah,
was.
he won MVP by one vote, and All Pro was like was much further apart. Yeah,
Voting is subjective. If you want stuff that's not voted on, stop having votes. Like that's the thing. All right, Sal. So yesterday, Jim Leonhard down at One Bills Drive talking about his defense. We got a chance to meet him, and he spoke about a number of things, including his return to Buffalo. The thing I kind of found interesting was how he talked about coming from a coaching family and like that this was always a calling for him. He was a player, but for him, he kind of always, at least what I took away from what he said, was he always felt like this would be where he ended up as coaching.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with that. It was always kind of something in his blood, family-wise, but also, when he started playing, he said like it wasn't something all of a sudden that just came about. Like, oh yeah, I want to, be a coach. His dad was actually a basketball coach too. I think he might have coached football too, but his dad was a basketball coach. And his family is very sports oriented, siblings, people like that. I mean, obviously the background story we know too. He played here. He was an undrafted free agent here in 2005. He knows the community. He said, when he got here, that was one of the things, familiarity with the area, knowing where to go and what the community's like and all those kinds of things, which is really awesome. Part of it. The other thing was just simply, hey, you have a really good organization here. They're very close. He wanted to be a part of that. He obviously wants to be a defensive coordinator. He said he had other opportunities. He talked with a lot of teams, and this is where he ended up for a lot of those reasons. So, that was one part of it. I was super interested in the football stuff of it, and I asked him specifically about, the evolution of defense since he came into the league, since he started coaching, even, back in his playing days at Wisconsin in the early 2000s. And, I think one of the things, and I wrote about it at WGR550.com that came out was, we all have talked about this, guys, but he even said it, which is 3-4, 4-3. Things aren't static like that anymore. And everything is very fluid is the way that he used it. And I really like his comparison. He said, it's like the NBA now where you have like positionless players and you just really can move people around and do things. And I think the money quote for me was when he said basically, if you can do everything in a down-to-down basis with the same 11 guys, that can put a lot of stress on an offense.
And, yeah, that's one thing I think you could see a major difference in how the Bills draft or sign players because, the Sean McDermott defense was big on, especially on the defensive line, Sal, big on rotation. And if the Bills draft a defensive end or sign a defensive end or want to trade for like a Max Crosby, just like as a name out there, like, I feel like you have an opportunity now where we're not having the conversation like we did when Vaughn got here. Like, oh, is Vaughn going to be okay with 60% of the snaps? Like, Leonhard sounds like he's going to be less about substitutions and rotations and more about we're going to put together an 11-man defense. Of course, with depth and, behind that. But the idea is an 11-man defense that can kind of do it all.
For sure. And, he's not going to get into the weeds of players. He was asked about specific players, Cole Bishop, and Cole Bishop's a safety. We're really talking front seven here when we talk about the fluidity of 3-4, 4-3, and 11 players, right? But, we talked about the versatility of Cole Bishop. We talked about the versatility of Christian Benford, as a man-to-man, his own guy, things like that. That's going to happen. I think the scheme part of it, how you line up, what you do to an offense. What he said was when you can make an offensive line have to think on the fly, when you can make a quarterback have to make snap decisions, that's when you can really be at your best on defense. And he said he believes, his most success as a coach with players who don't fit in traditional boxes, with players that he can move around and do things with. I think that's exciting to hear because now your possibilities are really going in your head of what the Bills defense could look like and what they could do. And for sure, we're all going to think of Michael Hoyt right here, the first name that comes to mind, right? Which is, okay, what can you do with that guy, provided he's healthy and he recovers in time from the Achilles? What can you do with that guy? But you can, if you add a couple of guys kind of similarly, now you can really start to figure out and play with what you want to look like on defense. And you're right, guys. Jeremy, I mean, one of the things is, the Bills, they would have, they would play base against this or nickel against that, and they've done different things over the years and use a big nickel safety. And I just think you're going to get less of that and more of, hey, stay on the field, and we're just going to come at you from different times and different places and line up a little differently.
Yeah, I do think that's going to be a big difference because even though maybe the Bills have talked about versatility in the past, Sal, you have had a lot of examples of, okay, Shaq Thompson is in, but if they're in this package, then maybe we like this linebacker instead. Or there was the year where, we've got these linebackers out here, but when they're in this, maybe Poyer comes down, and now Rapp is out there. And, this in and out, Taron Johnson a little bit last year, too. They've maybe talked about versatility, but they've kind of needed to rotate guys in and out based on what they wanted to do. And it sounds like Leonhard is, thinking, I want a guy that, can play all the snaps no matter what the offense is in.
For sure. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussion. One of the very interesting things that came out, and this started yesterday with Brandon Beane on with you guys. Remember when he said to you guys that he had a long meeting with his staff, right? His scouts. Remember that? And he had Jim Leonhard there, and he had Joe Brady there, and whenever they were all together in some capacity in the rooms, and they were bouncing things off each other. And Leonhard said, for his part, he said he had a big meeting, like a long meeting with these guys. They spent a lot of time together, the scouting staff. He said he wanted to give clarity in exactly what his vision is and what he wants so that they can do their job better. So that gives you a really good insight into how this works, right? Which is, okay, you're the defensive coordinator. I am the scout. I am the GM. I am the person who's going out there and finding players, whether that's pro or college. You tell me what you want, and I'm going to make this checklist of how those guys that I can figure out fit to what you want to do, right? So for all the talk we've had about collaboration, who's doing what, who's running what, Sean McDermott's picking the players, not Brandon Beane, all those things. He just told you, right, what's happening. I'm with the scouting staff and telling them, this is my vision, this is clarity, this is what I want, and this is what I need. Those guys now can do their job better.
Yeah, and that type of defense, I think Seattle is maybe a team to watch for this. Ollie Connolly, we've had on the station before, wrote before the season about how Rex Ryan, say what you will about him as a head coach, but his fingerprints for what he used to run as a defense are all over the league. Like Brian Flores is that, Mike McDonald is that in Seattle. And I read back that piece yesterday after Leonhard talked, and he does talk about Jim Leonhard in there as well. And I know Leonhard talked about that a little bit too. This is all kind of Rex defensive type stuff.
For sure. Jim Leonhard played for Rex Ryan, and then he coached under Vance Joseph. And going back to the first day that we heard his name, I think you could point to what do those guys have in common? Aggressive defenses that come at you in different ways. The thing about a Rex defense that I think what happened over time with Rex's defenses were they got so complicated. And you can't do that in today's NFL. You got to keep things simpler. You cannot be trying to figure things out of where you can have a lot of creativity, but with creativity can come complexity. And it got too complicated, I think, and too complex for people to have to do different things. You can't do that anymore. The NFL goes too fast. These quarterbacks, these offensive lines, these offenses are too good spread, and they have options on everything that you do. So sometimes you have to line up and just go play football. And I got the sense in listening to Jim Leonhard that he understands that. And he's not going to be complex. In fact, he used the word simple. You got to be simple when you play, and you got to be able to just get ready to play every snap and know exactly what you can do, but have multiple ways to do those things.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline. Takeaways from Jim Leonhard's introduction at One Bills Drive is things kind of get going quickly. Our conversation with Brandon Beane yesterday, Sal, kind of asked him, he gets some downtime before the combine. He said, no, they're meeting with those scouts, like you said.
College scouts.
Yeah, meeting with college scouts, kind of getting right to it. They're pre-combine board, and then the combine comes quickly. There's the franchise tag window. So, the offseason comes kind of quick upon us, and then we'll get to the draft and all that.
And by the way, we obviously all the coordinators spoke yesterday, just so everybody knows. We heard from all the coordinators, and it was also, and then we didn't know this. Joe Brady actually came out after that and talked to us a little bit and gave us a little more, clarity. And I think he was wearing shorts, Jeremy, just so you know.
He's in shorts almost every day, guy, from the look of it. So Pete Carmichael spoke too, and he said he'd been waiting to work for Joe Brady for a long time.
He did. They went back. They go back a long ways. They go back a while, I should say. They were together in New Orleans. Pete Carmichael came off to me as the very, very quintessential good soldier, loyal coach, right? And what I mean by that is there are coaches in this league who are just trying to climb the ladder and become a coordinator and head coach, and they're doing anything they can to do that. And it's not that they're trying to backstab. That's not what I'm saying, but you could get that. It's just that they're in this for themselves to get to as high as a position as possible. There's other coaches in this league who are very content with who they are, what they know, what they do, and say, I just want to be as supportive as possible. I want to win. I want to help. I want to be a coach. I want to be a teacher. And I think he totally falls into that bucket. He didn't strike me as, and you look at his career, as a guy who's been trying to climb the ladder to his next job. He's just been a really good, loyal coach next to some really good coaches over the years. He coached with Marty Schottenheimer. He coached with Norv Turner. I mean, he coached with Sean Payton, right? And I think this guy is a real good fit for Joe Brady, because Joe's going to need guys like that in his staff. He's going to need guys who he can trust, who can be with him. Not for nothing, Joe's got two guys in his staff that I think are very similar to that, and he said he's retaining them. Kelly Skipper and Rob Boris. I don't know if people really realize how we could talk about get rid of this coach, get rid of that coach, and scheme, and this, that group didn't have good production. I get all that. It's a bottom line business, a production business. I don't think many average fans realize how important it is to have coaches on your staff that are the second group that I described. Loyal, understand their role. They're not out to just climb the ladder. They're there to help and support the coach that they're working for and under in any way possible. And Pete Carmichael is that guy.
So Capaccio recapping yesterday's presser at One Bills Drive.
Do you, Sal, think that Seattle is going to win on Sunday? Are you in the group? They're the most bet Super Bowl favorite, I think, in years. Do you think that they're gonna win big?
I don't know if they're gonna win big. I mean, I think you give 2 weeks to prepare. You have a team like the Patriots who I think they try to play games within tight margins. They'll try to do that in this game, and they'll keep it as close as possible. I think that they know they don't want to get into a shootout. They don't have the type of team to necessarily do that. They'll try and get a couple turnovers. They'll do what they can against Darnold, and maybe they'll get a couple, and that'll keep the game a little closer. So I do not think it'll be a blowout. I didn't think it would be last year, though, and Philly did that. I don't know. It scares me that I don't want the Patriots to win, right? I mean, I don't know if anybody does in Buffalo, I guess. But I think the Seahawks should win the game. But man, I just know how the Patriots want to play, and they want to play a game against they're gonna do anything they can to, as Sean McDermott said after the Bills played the Patriots the first time here in Buffalo and they lost, they want to muck it up, and that's what they're gonna want to do against the Seahawks.
Well, before the Super Bowl, you'll have two opportunities to watch the Quad God at the Olympics. Are you familiar with Quad God?
I am not familiar with Quad
God. He is the American figure skater that does quadruple jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Ilya Malinin, Quad God. Familiarize yourself, America.
So the quad jumps are very rare, right?
Yes,
I mean, because we usually talk about the triple whatever.
Yes, I think he might be the first one to have done it, and he has done as many as 7 in one program. So basically, he can do something no one else can do. Quad God.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll be on the lookout for quad God.
Ilya Malinin. He's the son of figure skaters. So he's raised skating, and he's from Virginia, and he's going to go.
Can you put a hockey stick in his hand?
Great question. Can this be weaponized in any way?
Right. That's
Imagine
what I want to know.
The speed of that shot after that fourth. Yeah. Like a tornado shot.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Sal, thanks. We'll talk soon.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
Sal Capaccio. Quad God. Tomorrow, 1:45 is the men's short program.
Okay.